Right, how's it going? Quick intro here. Basically tonight we're doing the tappets on the little green chopper that thinks it can. For those of you who've been watching already, I fitted a new engine in this a few weeks ago. Got it running in the last video. I think I've still got some more stuff to edit, like carburetor rebuild and stuff. I'll make another video on that. For now, this is just helping anyone out that's got Gsxr, 600, 750, 1100, 1200 Bandit, 600 Bandit, 650 Bandit. They're all very much the same. The same will apply to it no matter what the CC. Doesn't matter that this is a chopper. The job is the same in the stock bike. If not, even might be a bit easier. No, probably not actually, but never mind. You know how to take a petrol tank off. Yeah, so I'll crack on with that and just show you what I've got laid out, the bits I've got prepped ready, and yeah, just get in, rip it apart and get that thing done, grill a build style. Back in a second. Alright, so as you can see, this bike probably doesn't look like yours. Ignore the chassis, the motors are all very much the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this noise out the way, coils, carburetors, homemade airbox, as much clutter out the way so you can just see the motor and the bits that are relevant to setting the valve clearances on one of these things. If I just turn you around here, I've got a couple of bits out on my little bench here that I'm going to use. 5mm, 6mm Allen key, some new 8mm aluminium washers, metric set of feeler gauges. These aren't as accurate as I'd like them to be honest. I've got loads of feeler gauges in here and I can't find the set I want, but these are going to be good. They go up in 5s, so or 0.05s. That's close enough for this. We've got a Suzuki Tappet tool. Again, I just bought another one. If you need to buy one of them, there's the part number there. I've got two of them in here somewhere, can't find them. Normal. Couple of spares these. I normally keep these in the toolbox anyway because somebody somewhere has always crushed one before I get to it. So if that was you, nice one, thanks for that. But you can often get away with reusing them if you're careful. Just put a bit of glue or grease on the back, just hold them in place. 10mm socket and 5 and 6mm bits for that ratchet. That socket there is actually my going away on the road socket set. I picked that up about, I don't know, 12 years ago at a welding shop. It's about 25 quid or something. They still sell them now. Brilliant little kit to lob in your bag if you're doing hundreds of miles like we tend to do a fair bit. The amount of bikes that's got going again, you know, I couldn't even count. So yeah, worth having. But I use that every single day, I reckon. And a normal 3/8 ratchet. Ignore the screws; they're just my tank mounting bolts for the homemade petrol tank. So I'll get these carburetors and the coils and that out the way, and then we'll get to work on ripping open that cam box. Alright, before I take too much more stuff off, just point out that I've removed that little pickup cover there. It's just easier to get a spanner on that from me in my little shed than put it in cog and spinning the back wheel, but you can leave that on if you want. Just put it in cog and use the back wheel to turn the motor over with it in gear. I've got the coils out there, carburetors off, and I've stuffed some bits of rag in the inlet manifold. Several reasons. If they're blocked off, it ups our chances of dropping something in the engine somewhere else, and we can do more damage that way. Same time, we can put the carburetors back on and leave them in there and wonder why it won't start later. So you know where I'm going with that. You know the score. I'll just rig this thing up as best I can, and we'll start getting the cam box off. Need a couple of 5s on these guys here, these oil lines, and yeah, they're 5s and 6s again. And these 10mm banjo bolts here, these little guys here, everyone forgets about them, but they got to come out. There's where your replacement alley washers go, and I'm going to take that oil separator thing off as well, just because I've never opened this engine up before just to see what's going on inside. I put it in, I got it running. It ran good after a bit of messing around with carburetors, and I just fired it down the south of England last weekend, knocked out about 600, maybe 700 mile. So whatever might have been lurking in there, and you know, that'll have been well blasted out the exhaust by now. The rings are certainly well seated because obviously I know it wasn't smoking, it wasn't down on power, idle wasn't lumpy. So I'm fairly confident the bores are good. I'm going to take the spark plugs out to make it easier to turn the motor over. That's always good advice. So we've got all these guys to open up, so I'll set up the camera and I'll get that done now. I like to just crack all these off first. Make sure we haven't got a bad one in there that's going to, you know, strip out on us or be seized up or snap off. You know, because like the old saying, every little job. Oh, look at this, someone's been in here before. We've got copper slip. Bonus. Maybe this bike has done more than 2,000 miles, or this engine has done more than 2,000 miles. The bike's certainly done more than 2,000 miles, but this motor is new to me, although I've owned it for 6 years or more. It's never gone anywhere with me before the other weekend. So it's got a good O-ring there. Yeah, don't need to replace that. Same with that guy. If in doubt, just replace them. If I had any doubts about it, I won't. I'm happy with that. I don't know if it's right or not, but I always start with these two guys, the back there and the front there, because they're the ones that I've known in the past to be jammed in there. As it happens, these are coming out quite nice. You can identify them because they've got a slightly smaller head than these ones on top of the rocker box there. So there's a bit of fuzz coming out with that one. Next, these guys. When I was riding it last weekend, I never noticed it coming out the breather. I did stick my head down there a few times because I left that hose off on purpose just to keep an eye on it. Depending on what bike you're working on, some of these things you can leave on. For example, the Bandit models, most of them with the wraparound perimeter frame, you can leave them in place. Yeah, good. No signs of breathing. Good engine. So let's have these other guys out. I've got the 10mm on. Don't be too keen on them because they're banjo bolts to the hollow, you see. You do not want to snap one of these guys off the head. That's what one looks like there. And as you see, they've got that copper washer on. Don't bother trying to do this without replacing that. You get a leak on that, it's just a pain in the ass. They're like 8p, just replace them every time. I don't know what the book says about mileages for doing the tappets on these motors, but I tend to do mine about every 4,000. Also, people will tell you about, you know, your bike sounds rattly there. You need to go and get your tappets done. What happens on these engines is it doesn't go rattly. The tappets tighten up because the valve head pockets inside the, you know, inside the valve seat. So the clearance closes, it never gets bigger. So when, like, Billy on the rally field or whatever tells you, oh, your nuts sounding rattly there, you need your tappets. It's probably not your tappets, it's probably your cam chain. And it's probably just a stuck tensioner, unless you've got millions of miles on it, like 30 plus, 30,000 plus. It probably doesn't need looking at, just needs the tensioner unjamming or fit a manual tensioner. But I've never done one of these engines unless it's been set up by Billy at the rally site. You know, who should have his tools took off him. Then they don't go loose. They always go tight. And the first symptom when you've left it like sort of 16,000 miles and never done the tappets, his bike won't start in the morning. Or it'll need flipping loads of choke to get going, and then next time it cools down it won't start again. Don't bother trying to do this hot either. If the engine's warm in any way, leave it alone, come back the next day. All these, all the settings which I'm about to pretend that I've looked up properly, I'll give you in a minute. It's all set, it's all designed for being done when the engine's cold. No point doing it hot, because when it cools down it'll change, it goes slack as fuck. Nice. I think that's all of them. We'll just go around with a quick idiot check, because that's the way we do it here. We leave bolts in and then we snap something off. Alright, let's go and get a little toffee on it. Tell by the noise when you've got all the bolts out. It makes that hollow, clunky. Now try not to drop those spark plug gaskets down the cam chain channel. At this point we can always fish them out if one does go down there, but let's just try not to. So 3 of them have come up with the rocker box cover. Just trying to feel that gasket. There we go. Let's see, there we go. Now those guys there, just the way that they're stuck in there, I'll leave that in there. I'll just retrieve that fella now and put him back in. Whichever way around we think he should go, that's it, that way. I'll take them out and stick them back in with a bit of grease later. But we'll go and put that somewhere where we can fill it with as much dirt as possible, because as I say, it can cause more damage that way. I'm going to leave that on there. I don't see any reason of pulling that all the way off. I'm not going to replace it because these will do 3 or 4 turns. Right, okay, I'm just going to pause it. I'm just going to take the spark plugs out, and then we'll get on to looking at these clearances. Right, if you're following the book, then you get your spanner on that. I think he's a 19, and that little line on there, you'll mark that with, line that up with the little pickup sensor bit, Hall effect, I think they call it. And up here, I don't know if you can see in there, but anyway, there's 2 little lines on the end of the camshaft, both cams. Now they line up parallel with this face on the cylinder head, and also the seam on the little cam carrier cap. Really hard to see in the light here. There's also a little notch there as well. I can't remember what that's for. I think it's part of another tool. But anyway, I've got that sat there at the top dead centre for number 1 and 4. So 1 and 4 pistons, they both come up together. Now on number 4 pot, you'll see both the cam lobes are pointing inwards. That's not the one we're interested in. We want both our cam lobes pointing outwards. So inlet pointing towards the riser and the exhaust pointing towards the exhaust. That's not quite how I'm going to do this, but that's if you're doing it by the book, and then vice versa for 2 and 3 pots. Basically, the one you're working on, cam lobes facing outwards, always with that line lined up with the pickup and the flats on the marked on the cams. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to spin it over on the motor, and just basically line up the bottom of the cam lobe there with the rocker. So that should be the maximum dwell of the camshaft. There should be no difference between measuring it here, where it's at now, and in the middle there. If I know that lobe is pointing almost sort of 180 degrees away from that rocker, then that's good enough for us to look at the clearances there. I'll set you up so I can show you the feeler gauge a bit. Alright, hope you're still with me. Okay, I've got a couple of these feelers sticking out here. The 10 and the 15, I'm just going to do all the inlets. Now you can go across, and like when you're doing this inlet, you can do that exhaust. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to have these out, the ones I want, and do all of them at that size all at the same time, just by spinning the motor over. I just find it's faster that way. Now, I pre-checked these already. Now the 10 goes in there good, which on these, this is a Gsxr 750X motor. The Bandits, the same settings. Your clearances are between 0.010 of a millimetre and 0.015 of a millimetre. If I put the 10 in there on each of them, that goes in like absolutely perfect. That's on the smaller side of the set, and if I try and do the 15, right, it ain't going in. Now, remembering what I said before about valves don't go loose, valve clearances don't go loose, they normally only ever go tight. We're going to go back and we're going to set these to the outside, the slacker of the limit, because next time I come to it, there's less chance of having to adjust it then. Next time I might be like a 12 or something like that. So I'm just going to set all these at 15, and then I know I'm good for ages then. So it's an 8mm spanner, by the way, just in case you want to get your tools ready. Slacken that nut right off. I just want to feel a bit of a pull on that feeler gauge. Leave that in there just while we nip that up. That's perfect. Just make sure we've got that proper tight. I was tempted to put the spanner down inside the engine there, we won't do that. That's how we lose spanners. Just right there. There we go. I've done that too tight. If it's too tight, that means I'm pressing the valve slightly open. That's us. Let's try that without me in the way. That's ideal. As I've ignored the timer marks. I've just got that lobe facing away. So, right, with them done, and to be honest, it's making the right noise. I'll do the same with the other three, and then we'll go on and do the exhaust. The process is exactly the same with all of them. If you want to go by the book, then lobes facing away on the cylinder you're working on. If you want to do it this method, then just that lobe facing up away from the rocker. Nice. I'll fast forward, do these other three, and then I'll get the settings up for the exhaust. Try and make the video as short and less complicated as possible. Okay, I hope you can see that alright. Now, because I'm using this Fisher Price set of feeler gauges, the parameters on the exhaust side are 0.18 to 0.23. I've got neither on this thing, but what I've got is the 20, the 0.20. So if I can get the 0.20 in there comfortably like that, then I'm going to call that a job. I'm going to leave it. That one's tight, so that's probably towards the minimum setting, towards the 0.8. So that one there, I'll set that to 20. All it means is that I'll be going back in here and doing this more frequently than if, for example, this was a paying job and I was going to leave the customer the longest period of time possible between us having another look in here or not. Because it's my own, and I'll do it every couple of months no matter what, depending on mileage and that, but that one there is absolutely perfect. So I'll leave that and I'll just set that one there to 20. It's like nearly in the middle, isn't it, from where it wants to be. So just by slackening the nut off, that gets that nearby where I want it. Like I say, always look for the larger clearance, not the tighter clearance. We're not blueprinting engines here, we're just making it work nice. You know. Bit tight. sound. They're both identical. So that's showing you inlet and exhaust tappets set. It's the same on every cylinder, going by my method or the one in the book. So I'll go ahead and box this thing back up. But I'll do these other three first. See how they're far out. When I did the inlets, I should point out, strangely enough, the two middle ones were perfect. Two outer ones both needed adjusting, both way tight. So there might be something in that, I don't know. It could be that the motor was laid up for that long and maybe those two were shut. Not sure, but anyway, that was a little way out, that one, only on one of them though. So I'll go and check the other three and then we'll crate it back up. Perfect, same as these. So let's go and check number 3. I don't even see that over the frame there, but that logo is pointing away. Same again. Slightly tight on one, but nothing that's going to make me sweat. Perfect. Okay, so on this engine, it's probably right what I've been told, that it's only got a couple of thousand miles on the clock. If I remember right, I think all the details were on the co-part receipt when I bought it years ago, and otherwise I probably wouldn't have entertained it. But yeah, everything that I'm seeing so far seems to add up. You know, somebody has been in there before, because I found that copper slip on them bolts. That literally could have been the first service that the bike had. By rights, you should do it on the first service. When I worked in a dealership, we used to do them all. If it was specified, a lot of them just don't bother because these engines are so good, they just leave it. You normally don't pay for your first service, so it was a good skim for the shops to leave it. We always used to do it because sometimes you'd find them out. You know, the first time you catch one, you find one out, you never miss another one again. So that's where we're at. Right, go and find all the bits and pieces and get this thing nailed up. Okay, because I was lazy and I left that rocker box gasket in place, which probably stopped you from seeing them lines there. We're ready to just go back on, so you just have a quick blimp at it. So that edge there is smaller than that one on the cam chain journal, so that tells you which way round. If you want to stick them in with a bit of grease, that'll help you out. Just make sure they're sitting square, and then just be dead brave and try and feed that in without trapping nothing. Obviously it might be a little bit easier on my chopper motorbike than it could possibly be on the stocker, just to get in and access the stuff. And we can see those middle seals are still where they need to be because we can see them down the plug hole. The gasket isn't hanging out the front, and also when we hit it, it sounds right. When you get it like that, just get a couple of bolts in it quick before something escapes. Let's find my tools and then we'll put you on fast forward for a sec. We'll put these screws in and I'll go back to these ones with the alley washers at the end. Okay, there's them all the main ones in. Right, obviously don't forget to do them guys at the end. But right now I'm going to get these banjo bolts and the new washers. You see there's one of the new washers on there. Bit of beard as well, never ate. Imagine them like a drain bolt. Don't swing on them loads, just nip them. Just enough to press that washer in. That's a big mistake if that gets snapped off in there. Watch it happen now. Okay, good. 5mm Allen key. Okay. Alright, I'll wrap this one up for this video now. Just got to throw the spark plugs back in, that's done for this bit. I'm not going to throw the carbs back on yet because that's going to be part of another video. If anyone wants me to crack on and show them the carb balancing, that's where I'm going to be going next. But for now, I'm hungry, so I'm going to get something to eat. Maybe try a Guinness or two. So yeah, you know what to do. Keep it between the ditches. Thanks for watching.